Hi, it's Rob the Fix-It Guy here again. New project today. I've got the upper control arm out of an 86 Buick Regal, also known as a G-body. And as you can see, this one's pretty shiny. Basically what I did was I ground it down, or I should say cleaned it up, using one of these wire wheels. They work fabulous. Once I cleaned it all up, got the rust off, gave it a couple coats of rust paint, and now this is fully dry, and I'm ready to reinstall the bushings on this upper control arm. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. The bushing, as you can see, has a little edge here. So the lower portion of the bushing is a little bit narrower than the top. So the top has a little edge here. So when you install this bushing in the control arm, you only want to go to here. That is fully seated once it reaches this point here. I did apply a very thin layer here of wheel bearing grease just to help it slide in, not too much. I applied a little bit of wheel bearing grease here just to lube it up just a tad, and same on this side. On a vise here, where just the edge of the control arm is on here, not this portion, just the edge. And then what we're going to do, we're going to put the bushing in here, and you can see that does slide in part way. It's seated already about half. And you will need some kind of ring. I've seen guys use pieces of exhaust pipe. I happen to have a ball joint removal kit or installation kit, but this does fit in nicely right over that bushing. And then also from that same kit, I've got this piece which allows me to hammer down on this. And I'm going to tap this. It shouldn't need a lot of force to get in there if it's done properly. It's already going down in. Down pretty good there. Okay, so there we go. You can see now it's flush right up against the metal, and this bottom portion is completely in now. I'm going to give it another light tap just to make sure it's fully seated, and then we're good. Yeah, that definitely feels solid. So we've fully seated one of the bushings here. So now the next step is to install the cross arm, and then we'll install the other bushing. Here's the cross shaft that's going to go into the control arm. So as you can see here, I have sanded a little bit of this shaft. This is where it actually goes into the bushing. So you will have a little bit of rust there, and in fact when you remove these, sometimes you'll find that it's pretty tough to get these off. So what I'm doing is I'm sanding this down a little bit, just getting a little bit of the rust off. And same with the other side. We're going to sand this side down a little bit. And then a tip is, and again, hopefully you'll never have to replace these in a long, long time. But if you ever want to take it apart again, a good tip is to put some anti-seize compound right here where it sits right inside the bushing. That way the two metals will not rust together. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do the other side here. And again, this is so that in future, if you ever have to remove this cross shaft again from the control arm, it's not going to be super difficult to get it apart. Okay, as I mentioned earlier in the first step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit of wheel bearing grease. That's what I have here, wheel bearing grease. And I'm just going to put just a little thin film on here just to help that slide in there. You don't want too much because once this is in place, it's not supposed to slide around. With the control arm, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a little bit in here just to help it slide in. And that's it. If you put the bushing in now, you won't be able to get the cross shaft in. So what you need to do is first install this. That's going to slide in there. And then you're going to put your last bushing in. Okay? If you put, like I say earlier, if you put both bushings in, you won't be able to put the cross shaft in once you put both bushings in. So you put one bushing in, then your cross shaft, then the last bushing goes in. So last step, we're going to hammer this in. Alright, so we've moved the control arm over to the vise here. And again, same thing, we're just going to have the lip of the control arm over here, not too far in, because then the bushing is going to hit it. And you saw we put our cross shaft in earlier, so that's in, the lower bushing's in. Now we just have to knock this, this other bushing in, looks like maybe ½ inch. Let's see how we're doing here. And we're more than halfway there. So a couple more taps, this should be in. And there we are, we're in. Okay, so now when you reinstall these, do not tighten these bolts fully, or the nuts I should say, on the ends, fully until the vehicle is on the ground. So in other words, the weight of the vehicle has to be on the control arm, the vehicle's lowered, it's sitting at its normal riding height, then you fully tighten the nuts on the ends. Okay, but you don't do it until that point. So that's how you install the bushings on a G-body 80s GM vehicle. These are also very similar for the S10s and a lot of other GM vehicles. But the bushing here, as you can see, does have to stick out. It doesn't go flush with the side of the metal. It actually has a gap there on both sides. Okay, so just make sure you don't force it in too far. Thank you. Subscribe to my channel and leave a like if you enjoyed the video.